Tonight on Dark Dialogue, we ventured to the rugged border of western Nebraska and eastern Wyoming, where the horizon stretches endless and secrets vanish into the dust. Here on July 2019, a young man disappeared without a trace. His name was Chance Englebert, 25, a new father, a welder with a rodeo cowboy's heart. He was in Gering, Nebraska, visiting in-laws for the 4th of July, navigating a family gathering that turned tense. A disagreement sparked. He stepped out to walk it off, and then nothing. No calls, no confirmed sightings, no trace of his phone after 9 p.m. Just a void where a vibrant life once stood. Chance left behind a wife, a newborn son, and a mystery that haunts the high plains. Drones, dogs, and helicopters scoured the land, yet no clue, no boot, no hat has ever surfaced. Was it foul play? An accident in the wilds? Or do some of Gering know more than what they've shared? From silent witnesses to missing riverbank trails, this case lingers like a storm that won't break. I'm John, and this is Dark Dialogue, where shadows hold the truth. Join us as we chase Chance's final steps. Hey, Angela. How's the day?
It is better now that I'm here doing true crime.
Yeah?
Yes.
You prefer the true crime world?
It's so much more fun, which is so sad to say.
Well, I don't know. Living in the fantasy world is always better than living in the real world, isn't it?
This is true.
So, are you ready to dig into this case?
I'm ready.
This is one that you kind of brought to the table.
Yeah.
This one's one that you've kind of been.
This one drives me nuts.
Yeah.
This one irritates me, and I know I'm not alone.
No, I think all of these cases where we just have either zero or very few answers just drive people insane for good reason.
Well, and it's close enough to home that we have billboards.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's not all the time that true crime cases hit the great state of Wyoming.
Yeah.
With our huge population, it is one thing.
Yeah.
Does kind of
cattle
protect us from a lot of the dark that's out there. So.
Yeah.
All right, well, should we get going?
Let's do it.
Okay. So listeners, welcome to Dark Dialogue, the podcast where we explore the shadows of unsolved mysteries, forgotten tragedies, and the echoes they leave behind. Like I said, I'm John, your guide through the facts, timelines, and forensic puzzles.
And I'm Angela, here to help you understand the places where these stories unfold, from the dusty back roads of Wyoming to the forgotten towns that hold secrets generations deep.
Tonight's story is personal. It's raw, and it's deeply frustrating because it reminds us how quickly a routine weekend can turn into a permanent question mark. We're talking about the disappearance of 25-year-old Chance Englebert, a devoted husband, new father, and a rodeo cowboy who vanished without a trace during a July visit to his in-laws in Gering, Nebraska.
This one really sticks with you. One minute he's texting his wife to pick him up, and the next he's just gone. No confirmed sightings, no footprints, just a phone ping near a railroad yard, and then nothing, which is why it's so annoying to me.
Yeah.
And that kind of silence, it haunts a town.
Yeah, it sure does. And what makes this case even more difficult is the fracture that it left behind. Not just for Chance's wife and son, but between two families who once shared a dinner table. We'll walk you through the emotional divide as well as the search efforts, the cell phone records, and the theories that swirl around Gering.
And as per normal, I'll give you a deep look at the setting. How the geography, the river, the layout of this small town in Nebraska may have played a bigger role than people realize, because sometimes it's the land itself that holds the clues.
We'll also examine how law enforcement handled the first crucial 48 hours, the tech trail Chance left behind, and why, even 4 years later, So many people believe someone out there knows more than what they're saying.
If you've ever felt the weight of uncertainty, if you've ever feared how quickly someone you love can slip away, this case will stay with you. It's about chance, but it could be about any of us.
So settle in. This is Vanished in the Dust, the mystery of Chance Englebert, and you're listening to Dark Dialogue. So, Angela, I believe you dug up some locations and some statistics for us.
I did, but I'm settling in, as you just said. So you got to give me a second.
And tell us about Gering.
All right. I'm settled, I think. I don't know, maybe not. Let's dive into Gering, Nebraska, a quiet town where Chance Englebert was last seen and where unanswered questions still haunt. Gering was officially founded on March 7th, 1887, located at the base of the bluff that is now the center of Scottsbluff National Monument. Ooh, take more breaths before you say long sentences. Although settled in 1886, Gering officially became a town in 1887 by a corporation headed by Oscar Gardner of Broken Bow, Nebraska, and named for Martin Gering, a pioneer merchant with whom Gardner started the first dry goods store. Gardner, who was also a lawyer in Gering's first notary public, started the post office in 1887, becoming Gering's first postmaster. With a population of only 433 people in 1900, the census records report 8,564 people in 2020. Gering blends small-town warmth, rich history, and natural beauty, making it an appealing destination for visitors and a tight-knit home for residents. The public schools are above average, and the community is described as conservative, welcoming, and family-friendly. The cost of living is relatively low, with the median household income slightly above other Nebraska towns like Seward or Grant. However, 8.2% of families live in poverty. The city's proximity to natural landmarks and its vibrant local culture make it a gateway to outdoor adventure and historical exploration. Gering's origins are rooted in its role as a stop along the Oregon Trail, a historical significance celebrated annually with the Oregon Trail Days Festival, Nebraska's oldest continuous celebration. Now, you know I always try to find something off the wall at our locations, and here's what I found for Gering. The first wedding was that of Miss Ella Yance to William Burton, and the ceremony was performed by Reverend B.L. Brisbane. It occurred in June 1887. The next month, July 1st, 1887, Miss Mammy Randall married Elmer Hathaway, and Miss Etta Hathaway married William Burgess in the first double wedding to occur in the valley.
So a double wedding in 1877. That's like frontier reality TV.
Picture it. Fairy dresses, no Wi-Fi, pure romance. These stories, plus the towering Scottsbluff, make Gering a place with deep roots and character.
So, small town, big history. How does a place like this get tied to a mystery like Chance's?
That's the heartbreak. Surrounded by farmland and prairie where winds can carry voices or silence them, Gering became the center of a mystery in 2019. Chance's disappearance left family, friends, and this close-knit town grappling for answers.
So, who was Chance Englebert? Before we unravel the disappearance, we need to know the man who vanished, who he was, how he lived, what he valued, and what might have weighed on him that July 2019 weekend. Chance Leslie Englebert was born December 14th, 1993, which is a hell of a good day, I might say.
It is.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
In South Dakota.
I like that day.
I like that day too. Raised in Edgemont, population barely 700, Fall River County near the Nebraska border, cowboy country, ranch land, pine hills, open pasture, Pickup trucks, horses in the backyard, a place where you work with your hands before you drive. And that was Chance's rhythm. Raised by his mother, Dawn, a fierce advocate for answers since he vanished, friends say Chance adored her. She instilled discipline, pride, responsibility. He didn't need reminding to feed animals or finish tasks. His duties, well, he owned them.
Well, Edgemont shapes you. Small town, big expectations. Everyone knows your name, your reputation. You pitch in and show up. That life builds quiet resilience in kids like Chance.
Yeah. I can really relate to this kid, you know? And that resilience stayed. Chance loved rodeo early on, rode horses with easy confidence, not for show, but because it fit him. He understood animals, stayed calm in the chaos. As a teen, he took up bronc riding. Rough, raw, one of rodeo's toughest events. And he was good. Not flashy, just strong and focused. He thrived balancing control and chaos. He competed regionally, earning respect. Rodeo's no glamour, hauling gear, sleeping in trailers, driving through nights, bruises, dirt, cold mornings. Chance didn't just endure it, he embraced it. That work ethic carried over. After high school, he studied welding and metallurgy in college. Wanted a trade, stable, proud. Welding fits. Honest, precise, dangerous, rewarding. Instructors praised his eye and steady hands, his attention to detail. After graduating, jobs came easy. Employers wanted him.
Let's add electrician to the mix, and this kid is you, just a few years younger.
That's so true. It really is. As I was writing this, I was just thinking, damn, I wrote this kid.
Yeah.
You know?
And it wasn't just skill, it was attitude. Coworkers said he never complained. Long hours, he stayed. Something broke, he fixed it. Not loud, but dependable and solid. Much like my fearless co-host.
Yeah, I don't know about all that, but he does really remind me of myself. He does.
Hence the birthday sharing.
Yep. So in 2017, Chance married Bailey Bratt. Or Bratt, I don't know how you...
I'm not sure.
Bailey Bratt, I think. They met in Wyoming, both from ranching towns, she from Moorcroft, a natural match. Hardworking families, rural life, youthful optimism. They had bumps, disagreements over money, family dynamics, but nothing unusual for young newlyweds. Married young, they moved to Wyoming for work, building a future. In 2019, life brightened. Bailey gave birth to their son. Chance, a father, changed. Don said that he was so proud to be a dad. He sent baby photos to friends, talked of roots, land for his son to run, learn chores, ride horses.
So picture it, a young family, baby in a carrier, scraping by, dreaming of land outside of town. That's the hope so many cling to.
Yeah, but things weren't all smooth. Chance worked at Blakeman Propane, pipe welding, good pay, long hours, and travel, until he was laid off unexpectedly weeks before vanishing. And it stung. Not just the money, but his pride. He defined himself as a provider. Unemployment, even briefly, felt like failure. It sparked family tension. Don said Bailey's relatives criticized him during a talk about the layoff, questioning his work ethic, his stability, and to Chance, that cut deep.
Small towns run on pride. Losing a job isn't just a paycheck gone, it's your identity under fire, especially with a wife and baby relying on you.
100%. I mean, I can relate to all of this so well. But Chance didn't sulk. He lined up a new welding job in Gillette, Wyoming, starting that Monday. Told Don that he was excited. He was feeling optimistic, but he wasn't thrilled about the 4th of July trip to Gering. Past tensions with Bailey's family, nothing major, just enough to make him hesitate. He went anyway, though, for Bailey, for their son, because he was trying. That's what people remember. He tried. Good husband, good dad, dependable worker, not perfect. He had a temper, got defensive if misunderstood, but he never shirked responsibility, never ghosted, never just vanished. So when he did, it hit like a punch in the chest.
Many missing persons cases involve clear reasons to vanish, such as legal trouble, addiction, deep issues. Not Chance. He was engaged in working through the struggles.
Exactly. Hours before disappearing, he was joking on Snapchat, talking to Dawn about the new job, planning for his baby, welding, land. Not a man ready to bolt. By July 6, 2019, 2 days after Independence Day, something shifted. A family disagreement spiraled, and Chance walked out of the Gering house, never to be seen again. Before we trace that night, let's look deeper. This isn't just a timeline, it's a pattern. Frustrations, loyalties, choices building to a moment that we can't forget. Chance was loyal, almost to a fault. He trusted easily, but when that trust broke, he shut down fast. Stubborn, not great at smoothing over disrespect. He didn't hold grudges, he just needed time. Liked control, not aggressively, but like many from tough upbringings, control meant safety, predictability. Mix that with public tension, a family gathering, financial stress, a job loss, and it's a powder keg, one ticking longer than anyone saw. We can't undo that night, but we can study the hours before, those final talks, subtle signals. They matter. That's where the clues hide. That's what we're chasing tonight. So Saturday, July 6, 2019, it was supposed to be a simple holiday weekend, a family visit, a barbecue, a couple of cold drinks on a hot July afternoon in Gering, Nebraska. But something about that day didn't sit right from the start. Chance and Bailey had arrived in town with their infant son to stay with her grandparents. The baby was just a few months old, still in that sleepless, bottle-warm stage of parenthood. Bailey's family was gathered, people were relaxed, but the mood wasn't as festive as it should have been. According to Bailey and several of her relatives, the tensions that day started over lunch. The topic of conversation turned toward work, and someone made what Chance reportedly took as a sarcastic or a critical comment about his recent job loss. Bailey would later say it was just light teasing, but to Chance, who'd been laid off, then quickly secured a new job to provide for his family, it stung. He didn't think it was funny. He thought it was disrespectful. And I gotta say, I'm right there with this kid.
Exactly.
I know exactly what he felt. And even his personality, it's just weird. His personality is so much like mine. I'm not super confrontational. If I get pissed, I just walk away and go off by myself. I can relate to him so much. If I was in his shoes and somebody made some smart ass comment, it would have pissed me off too, especially at his age.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just so much more laid back than I was. But man, when I was his age, I was exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I would have been pissed right from the start as soon as somebody said something. And I would have been this guy just walking away being like, I just got to get out of here for a little bit.
My kiddo is the same way, and he's growing out of it, but totally exactly the same way. You don't hold a grudge, but you need a minute, and I don't need a minute with everyone in my face.
Exactly.
And that's exactly how he is.
I don't know. I imagine your son's the same way. I think Chance was the same way. You get away, you spend a little bit of time in your own head, and then you come back and it's over.
Yeah. You realize,
you don't hold grudges. You kind of analyze it and you're like, maybe they didn't really mean it to be, offensive. And then you come back and everything's fine. That's how I am. I cool down really easy if I'm left alone.
Right.
If people keep picking at me, that's when I blow. It's like, just give me the time I need and then everything's going to be fine.
Or if somebody lips off to your mom.
Yeah,
You just don't do
that's
that.
a deal breaker right there.
Just don't do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had to throw that out there at you. So if you've ever been through something like that, losing a job, feeling like your pride is already bruised, it doesn't take much to tip that scale, like we just said.
Yeah.
Even a small joke can land like an insult, and especially in front of the in-laws.
Yeah. And it escalated fast. Voices rose. Chance reportedly asked Bailey to leave with him, and she declined. She wanted to stay. She thought that they could all cool off and reset. So Chance did what a lot of people do when things boil over, like I would do.
Mm-hmm.
He walked away. He just walked away.
Yeah.
He left the house on foot around 7:30 p.m., wearing a short-sleeve Wrangler button-up shirt, jeans, roper boots, and a belt buckle. No backpack, no water bottle, no jacket, just his phone, his wallet, and his pride. And he told Bailey that he was going to walk to a friend's house or maybe just blow off some steam. What happened next would launch a search effort that's still ongoing 5 years later.
So let's pause for a second and talk about what's around Gering. This is a town of less than 10,000 people. Flat farmland, scattered neighborhoods, long stretches of road with very few places to hide.
Yeah.
It's not a major urban sprawl. It's one of those places where you feel like you can see for miles, and yet somehow someone vanished in plain sight.
And it is too. I mean, you got Scotts Bluff, you've got a few kind of rolling hills and stuff around there, but I mean, it's not like the mountains.
Yeah.
It's just rolling hills. There's some, like scrub cedar and stuff like that on the hills. I don't know have you been there?
Only through it, and I think I slept most of it, so.
Yeah, I've been all over that area, and I mean, it's just, it's hard to believe that somebody could go missing and be missing for this long.
Exactly.
It's, if you're up in the mountains where there's a bunch of trees, there's a bunch of rocks.
Caves.
Yeah, if somebody gets hurt and can't get up and they end up passing away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
4 years you might find a body.
You might, but you might not too.
That's
I mean, because you'd have to walk like right on top of them.
yeah.
But it's a lot of flatland. There's not a ton of trees and stuff. You would think that the clothing you would be able to see from quite a ways off.
Yeah.
But no. So
Nothing.
no, it's just weird. The last time anyone who knew Chance spoke to him was around 7:45 p.m. He called his buddy, Matt Miller. The conversation was short. Chance said that he needed a ride. He was in Gering and he didn't want to be there anymore. He told Matt there'd been a fight with his in-laws and he needed out. Matt later said that Chance didn't sound intoxicated, just agitated, frustrated, maybe embarrassed. Matt was in Pine Haven, Wyoming, 4 hours away. He couldn't come get Chance. He offered to talk through options, but the call ended shortly after. That was the last real voice conversation anyone confirmed to have with Chance. And from that moment on, we're left with fragments, pings, footage, assumptions. Between 7:45 and 8:45, Chance was seen walking around Gering. At least 2 surveillance videos captured him moving along the sidewalks. At one point near Terry Boulevard and 10th Street, he wasn't running, he wasn't staggering, he looked calm, focused, just walking. One witness described seeing him pass their property heading east towards Scotts Bluff, just across the river. They said he didn't appear to be in distress. Another security camera shows a man matching his description, walking with purpose, not lost, not panicked, like he had somewhere to go. And then the trail begins to fade.
It's hard to imagine that someone could literally walk straight out of view in a place like that. Gering and Scotts Bluff are close, but they're not that dense with people or traffic.
Not at all.
You'd think someone would have seen him, said hello, offered a ride, but nothing came.
Yeah, and this one's a unique one because I know the area and I know the people. I mean, I don't know anybody in Scotts.
People?
I don't know anybody in Scotts Bluff, but I know the people. I've been around ranchers my entire life.
Right.
So have you.
Yeah.
And we're talking,
excuse me.
I mean, we're talking about a group of people that it really goes back to, I don't know, a simpler time.
Mm-hmm.
These are people that they see you walking down the road in trouble. They stop and pick you up and safely take a ride with them because they're going to take care of you. I mean, these are the kind of people that I got a flat tire one time. The dude got my car to his house, put one of his tires on because he had a tire changing machine right there in his shop.
That's lucky.
So many farmers and ranchers do. He had a tire that would fit. He just mounted it, balanced it, put it on the car.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, what do I owe you? He's like, nah, just do something good for the
Pay it forward. Pay it
forward. That's the kind of people that live in this area. I mean, they're just good, hardworking people.
If nothing else, if they couldn't get him in the vehicle, cell phones existed. They would have been, can we call someone? Can we do anything for you? Nothing.
And I mean, to your point, it was not that long ago, you know? So his phone pinged again shortly after 9 p.m. and this time near the Riverview Golf Course area, right along the North Platte River. After that, nothing. No more pings, no calls, no texts, just digital silence. There were also a few unconfirmed but persistent sightings in the hour after Chance's phone went dark. One driver claimed to have seen a man matching Chance's description walking along Highway 92, heading west towards Torrington. Another tip came from a bar in nearby Mitchell, Nebraska, who told volunteers she thought she saw a man who looked like Chance passing by on foot later that night.
Now, neither of those sightings could be verified, but they added to the confusion in those first few days. And they still leave the door open to the possibility that Chance kept moving, maybe further than we thought. Now, let's look at the radius of that last ping. The North Platte River runs shallow in July. It's not known for sweeping people away without a trace, especially not adults. But it can be dangerous under the wrong conditions. Fast current, muddy bottoms, limited visibility. A search was conducted of the river in the days that followed. Dogs, drones, divers. Nothing was found. Not a shirt, not a boot, not a wallet, not a trace. And let's be honest, if someone had fallen in that river or gotten injured, they would have found something. At least something. Especially that belt buckle. The kind Chance wore, those would just wash away unnoticed.
No. And, you know, the North Platte, first of all, it's just not like a crazy roaring river at all.
It's not like whitewater rafting.
No, it's really not. But then as it gets down into Nebraska, because the North Platte's the same river that Lisa Marie Kimmel's body was found in Casper, you know, so it literally flows all the way through the state of Wyoming, down and into Nebraska, into this area. But by the time it gets into Nebraska, like I said, the topography there is a lot flatter. So obviously the river flattens out. As you know, with running water, when it flattens out, it slows down. And so it just isn't a roaring river. And for those of you not from Wyoming, our water comes from the mountains, snowpack.
It's freaking cold.
It's cold, but by July, the initial melt off has already happened. And so, yeah, you know, you're talking now early June or May when that snow melt really starts. A lot of the rivers are carrying a lot of water. They're running pretty fast. But by July and then into August and stuff, they slow down because a lot of that snow is already melted out of the mountains. And I know that's hard for some people to imagine, but if you live in this area, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
We'd go outside and look at snow right now.
Exactly. Yep. So Bailey says that she tried calling Chance multiple times that night and he didn't answer. Text went unanswered. By morning, she was worried. She called Chance's mom, Dawn. That kicked off a wider response. Dawn immediately felt that something was wrong. She knew her son. He wasn't the kind of person to stay gone overnight without a word. He would not ghost his wife. He wouldn't leave his baby. Law enforcement in Gering was contacted, a missing persons report was filed, and then the search began. By Sunday afternoon, July 7th, the volunteers had gathered, family members dove in, canine units swept nearby fields, helicopters scanned from above, horses were brought out to help cover terrain, the Nebraska State Patrol and local police coordinated efforts, and here's what they found. Absolutely nothing.
And that's what makes this so disturbing. You can understand someone getting lost in the mountains or in a forest, but we're talking about open land.
Yeah.
Clear streets, trimmed neighborhoods, no terrain to fall into, no canyons to vanish in, and yet he was gone.
Yeah, and, we're talking about a kid again. I feel like I know him. And
it is you, just a few years younger.
It is. And we're in an area where you can see everything.
Yeah.
Especially after dark. You're talking about an area that's not that well populated.
Right.
So you can see the lights of a town from way out. Ever not getting lost.
Yeah.
Somebody that has any sense of direction and a kid that grew up like he did, I guarantee he had a good sense of direction. He knew exactly where he was at in relation to the towns and stuff like that. So he did not get lost. That's not even an option in this story. I don't
think so either.
The theory started almost immediately. Did Chance try to walk all the way back to Wyoming?
Which I kind of wouldn't put it past him for some of the things I heard.
Something I would do. If I was pissed off enough, oh yeah,
I'm going.
I would do it. I mean, I've done similar shit. I've walked like 30 miles when I was mad before. So, yeah, I would not put it past him. But did someone pick him up willingly or by force? Did he fall into the river? Did he get disoriented and collapse in a field somewhere? But the thing is, Chance didn't seem disoriented. The surveillance footage showed a man walking with clarity. Friends who spoke to him said that he sounded coherent. His stride wasn't broken. His steps weren't slow. He wasn't stumbling. And yet he disappeared as if he was erased. Let's talk about the timeline of what happened after he vanished. Within 24 hours, missing posters went up. Local news started reporting the story. A Facebook group was launched. The community began organizing, but things got complicated fast. There were rumors that he was seen on the side of the highway, that he might have been picked up by someone driving a dark vehicle, that maybe he didn't want to be found. His family, they just didn't buy it. According to Dawn, he had too much to live for, a new job waiting on Monday, a baby boy that he adored, a mom that he always checked in with. Even if he needed a break, he would have said something.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have let the people that he loves just suffer without a word.
And remember, there was no confirmed sightings after that 9:08 ping in the night,
Yep.
That's when his phone went dark and it didn't power down. It just stopped, like it had been shut off or destroyed.
Yeah.
Which is
creepy.
Jinx.
You owe me a Coke.
You don't drink Coke.
I do not drink Coke. You owe me an iced tea. Police searched nearby homes, vacant lots, grain bins, creek beds. They interviewed residents, canvassed neighborhoods, searched the river again, and nothing. It's worth noting that the night Chance disappeared, a storm did roll in. Around 9:30, thunderclouds moved through Gering and Scotts Bluff. Rain fell, temperatures dropped. For a man in a short-sleeved shirt, jeans, and no supplies, that could have spelled trouble. But still, someone would have found something. A boot print, a shirt snagged on a fence, but they didn't.
So one theory is that Chance may have accepted a ride, that maybe someone offered him help and it turned out to be a trap. Small towns aren't immune to danger. There's kindness, but there is also risk.
The idea of foul play has been considered seriously from the beginning. Could someone in Gering have harmed him? Could a stranger have passed through, picked him up, and silenced him before sunrise? Law enforcement has never ruled anything out, but they've never named a suspect either. There were tensions between Bailey's family and Chance's, conflicting stories, delayed cooperation, the kind of fractures that don't help when time is of the essence. To this day, no one has been arrested, no one has been charged, no solid lead has ever turned into a breakthrough. By July 8th, Chance's family was on news outlets across Nebraska, Wyoming, and South Dakota. His baby's face, too, being held by Dawn, who was already doing interviews, pleading for information. She hasn't stopped since.
Let's add some clarity to who Chance was that night. Picture a man, 25 years old, about 5'9", lean but strong from ranch work, short brown hair, likely tanned from outdoor life, wearing that Wrangler shirt, blue, maybe plaid, jeans, and a rodeo-style belt buckle, big and silver, the kind you'd notice. No tattoos were reported, but his boots were worn, practical, made for walking long stretches.
And their son? Let's call him a light in Chance's life, just 3 months old, named Jackson, a name Chance had picked with pride. Bailey was still adjusting to motherhood, and that baby was why Chance pushed through the job loss, the tensions, the long days.
The storm that night needs more focus. Weather data shows 0.4 inches of rain fell between 9:30 and 10 p.m., with winds gusting to 25 miles per hour, visibility dropping to a quarter mile at times. For Chance, out there alone, that's not just discomfort. It's a challenge. But he wasn't a stranger to harsh conditions. Growing up in Edgemont, he'd faced worse. Blizzards, dust storms. He knew to find cover, maybe a porch or an overhang.
Yet, no trace. No boot in the mud. No buckle glinting in the sun. Search teams led by Scottsbluff County Sheriff's Office alongside Nebraska State Patrol started on July 7th and ran through July 12th, covering 20 square miles. Volunteers checked irrigation ditches, cornfields, even abandoned cars. Nothing.
Community response was strong, but messy. Some locals shared tips: a man seen near Highway 26, truck idling late. Others held back, wary of police. Rumors of Chance, quote, leaving on purpose hurt Dawn, who knew he'd never abandoned Jackson. Bailey's grandparents, the hosts that day, stayed quiet, fueling speculation. No names, no accusations, but the silence spoke.
So by now, we've walked through every known moment leading up to Chance Englebert's disappearance. We know where he was, what he wore, what he said, and who he spoke with. We've reconstructed the timeline, and we've seen the dead ends, both digital and physical, that followed. But there's a line between knowing the facts and understanding the possibilities. So we're going to explore the 4 dominant theories in Chance's case, not just what they are, but how we evaluate them, what evidence supports them, what contradicts them, and where they fit within the broader framework of criminal and behavioral profiling. This isn't guesswork, it's structured analysis, so let's walk through it. So theory number 1 is an accidental drowning in the North Platte River. This is the theory that came early and never fully went away. Law enforcement floated it within the first 72 hours, and on the surface, it sounds logical. According to this theory, Chance left the house angry, walked alone into the storm, got disoriented, and somehow ended up in the North Platte River. The final ping of his cell phone around 9:08 p.m. places him near the Riverview Golf Course, just feet from the riverbank. Add in the thunderstorm and the fact that Chance was wearing boots, jeans, and a heavy belt buckle, and you've got a scenario where mobility was limited and visibility was poor. So how do we evaluate that? So let's start with what's supportive. The cell phone ping, it was confirmed near the river. Canine scent trail also led in that direction before going cold. The weather, there was the confirmed storm, rain and wind between 9:15 and 9:45. Known terrain hazards, the riverbank mud, possible soft footing, slick ground. He was wearing boots. We know they're slick, you know.
And I'll add to this, Chance wasn't dressed for hiking in those conditions. If the weather hit hard and he tried to find shelter, even just to rest for a second, a slip could have turned into something tragic really fast.
All true, 100%. But let's now look at what doesn't align. Number one, no physical evidence was ever recovered. Not a boot, not a shirt, not even his belt buckle, which would have snagged or washed up somewhere.
And stood out.
Oh, for sure. Extensive sonar searches of the river, including divers, drones, and boats, turned up absolutely nothing. The North Platte River in July, like we had said, is shallow in many areas. It would be difficult to drown in most parts without leaving a trace. And you also have to understand what that river's doing. I mean, it's feeding irrigation to fields. Yeah. And so it's not like it dumps into a giant lake or something. It's used for irrigating. So a body in that river would probably end up in a canal, would probably end up hung up somewhere where, somebody that's either riding ditch or irrigating is gonna see it, So
pieces of something would show up too.
Yeah. No known injuries or distress behaviors were captured on the surveillance prior to the final ping. And now let's talk methodology. In disappearance analysis, we look for what's called a terminal point artifact. That means any physical trace or interruption, like a shoe, a broken phone, or a dropped item that typically occurs in accidental death cases. That's missing here. In a high percentage of verified drowning cases involving adults, something is recovered, often within the first week, often within the first day, honestly. So the probability estimate that I gave the accidental drowning theory is 20 to 25%. It's plausible, but the lack of any physical evidence after aggressive searching makes this theory weak, especially over this length of time. Even if, I don't want to get too graphic, but, a body when they drown oftentimes will sink. But then once they start decomposing,
they'll float.
Yeah, the gases are released and it makes them float. So after this long, I find it nearly impossible to believe that he was in that river. I just do not believe it.
Yeah.
And, we're talking about July, but by December, that river is like a trickle. I mean, there is not much water at all flows in that river in the wintertime. And so I just don't believe it. I don't believe it.
We just don't believe it.
I just don't believe it. So let's look at theory number 2, abduction or foul play by a stranger. So let's turn now to the second major theory, that Chance encountered the wrong person at the wrong time and was abducted or killed. This theory posits that Chance was picked up by someone while walking, possibly a stranger offering a ride, or someone with malicious intent. It's rooted in the fact that his scent trail abruptly ends near a road. His phone goes dark just after that. There's no sign of a struggle, no body, and no phone, suggesting that something external may have intervened. So what supports this? The sudden scent trail stop, often associated with someone entering a vehicle. That last cell phone ping at 9:08 p.m. suggests possible deliberate shutoff or destruction of the phone. The weather conditions, it could have made him more open to accepting a ride. and multiple people claimed possible sightings of Chance or someone matching his description on nearby roads, though none have been confirmed.
There's also the psychological piece. Chance wasn't the kind of guy who asked for help easily. If he took a ride, it was either someone he trusted or someone who seemed safe.
Right. And that brings us to what's called situational coercion, a behavioral model where emotional vulnerability and adverse weather conditions increase the likelihood of risk taking. Accepting a ride in that moment fits that model. But let's consider the weaknesses. No witnesses have ever come forward to say that they picked him up. No vehicle was captured on camera near where he was last seen. And again, there's no physical evidence. Nothing was left behind. And statistically, random abductions are extremely rare, especially in little towns in Nebraska.
Right.
Methodologically, this theory aligns with missing person victimology in transient spaces, lonely highways, rural walkways, stormy nights. But the absence of any confirmed interaction with another party makes it difficult to advance beyond the theoretical. So I place the probability of that, a stranger abduction or foul play, at 35 to 40%.
Mm-hmm.
The sudden scent stop and phone silence increases that likelihood, but absence of suspects limits actionability. So then we have theory number 3. Foul play involving known individuals. And this is the most emotionally charged and controversial theory.
Yeah.
It suggests that Chance's disappearance wasn't random, that it involves someone that he knew either directly or indirectly, and that a confrontation either before or after he walked out turned deadly. It could have been a family member, a neighbor, a passerby who knew him, or someone who followed him. And here's what supports that idea. The documented argument with Bailey's relatives just hours before he left. No intention between Chance and parts of Bailey's family, especially regarding work and money. The unusual speed at which Bailey left town after the disappearance. Minimal media interaction from Bailey and her family since. The lack of coordinated search efforts from the in-law side of the family. And Chance's mother, Dawn, has consistently alleged that key questions remain unanswered by those that were present that night.
It's not easy to talk about this angle because when someone goes missing, the instinct is to rally. But here we saw families splinter. People pointing fingers, and that kind of division almost always slows the search for the truth.
To be clear, Bailey has publicly maintained her innocence. In an episode of Dateline Missing in America, she said that she believes Chance may have succumbed to the elements and insists that she has cooperated fully with law enforcement. She said, quote, "We've done everything. We've answered every question."
And she's never been named a suspect, but the emotional distance between the two families has made every interaction harder. And it's kept a lot of people wondering what really happened inside that house before Chance walked out.
Now to the method. In forensic psychology, we look for relationship proximity, meaning who had emotional access to the victim. This theory aligns with cases where domestic stress precedes a disappearance and where family response is unusually muted. It aligns with what's called the low disclosure environment, a situation where people involved may not know what happened, but refuse to cooperate fully out of fear, loyalty, or guilt. Here's the problem. There is no forensic evidence linking any known individual to foul play. No witnesses, no blood, no confession. But statistically, in nearly 65% of all male adult disappearances involving prior conflict, someone close to them is involved. We're not saying that's what happened here, but it cannot be dismissed. So I put the probability estimate of this one at 30 to 35%, and that is foul play by a known party. Behavioral and relational red flags are present, but the lack of hard proof keeps this theory in limbo. And, the other part that I really struggled with that theory is we know he left the house.
Yeah.
If there would have been some tension or whatever that we knew about between the family members and him, and he disappeared, but nobody knew where he went. He just disappeared. They never see him after going to that house. That raises the probability of that significantly. But we know he left. We know for a fact he did because we have video of him. We have cell phone proof that he left. So I don't know. That's a tough one. Then we have theory number 4, which is a voluntary disappearance. So let's talk about the most unlikely but still discussed theory, that Chance chose to disappear. This theory claims that Chance left on foot, decided to vanish, and walked away from his life, and then he staged his silence, shut off his phone, and started a new chapter somewhere else. It's a theory that law enforcement must always consider because in a small number of cases, it does happen. But let's examine this one closely. What supports this theory? Chance was under stress, recently laid off, had a young baby, and had just gotten into a fight. Some missing adults do disappear intentionally. That's where the support ends. Now, what contradicts it? Chance had a new job lined up starting Monday. He had a baby that he adored. All his messages showed pride and love. He remained in touch with family and friends, including Snapchat and calls the day of the disappearance. He left with no money, no plan, and no supplies. His social media, bank account, and ID have never been used again. No confirmed sighting or evidence of planning has ever surfaced.
And we've both covered these kinds of cases. When people plan to vanish, they leave digital footprints, money transfers, bus tickets, signal hops. Chance didn't leave a single one.
Exactly. The methodology here looks at pre-disappearance behavior, which overwhelmingly shows engagement with life, not detachment. So I put the probability of a voluntary disappearance at less than 5%. Emotionally, financially, and logistically, it's just implausible. The facts simply do not support it. So let's look at the methodology. How did I come up with the rating of these theories? So to bring order to uncertainty, we use several standardized tools in missing persons analysis. The victimology matrix analyzes the lifestyle, their risk behavior, their emotional stability. The behavioral consistency analysis, were actions leading up to the disappearance consistent with their personality? We look at environmental opportunity mapping. What possibilities did the surroundings allow, like vehicles, hiding spots, surveillance gaps? We look at the digital signature forensics, phones, bank accounts, social media, GPS logs, and the interpersonal conflict grid. Who had motive, proximity, or tension? In Chance's case, only theories 2 and 3 rank high across most of these categories. Now, that doesn't prove guilt, but it highlights where focus belongs. At the end of the day, though, this case isn't about statistics. It's about a man who should be here, a boy who should have his father, a mother who should have answers. Someone knows what happened that night, whether it was a tragic accident covered in silence or something darker. It didn't happen alone, and until someone comes forward, the theories are all that we have.
And for anyone listening, if you've been silent or scared or unsure, now is the time. This family deserves the truth. This child deserves to know what happened to his dad. And Chance, he deserves justice.
And I will say that when I was evaluating those theories, my personal knowledge and experience in that area had to come into play. And so for those that don't know, that from that Scotts Bluff area, you can drive all the way down to Denver on back roads that way. And so if you're up to something nefarious and you're wanting to avoid the interstate, I-25, that's a great way to go, because that keeps you on just backcountry, 2-lane roads, and you can drive all the way to Denver on that stretch. So I'm not saying that that's what happened, but I am saying that there is a higher likelihood because of that somebody that, I don't know, a character that was up to no good may have been using that to move drugs or something like that along that route, avoiding the interstate. Now, I didn't see that in any of the research or anything. That's just kind of what I came up with. But, if I was gonna haul a load of drugs from Colorado up into Nebraska or Wyoming, I wouldn't take the interstate. I'd take that little 2-lane road back.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty damn sure. So I don't know. It's a theory. Now, why would a drug dealer pick him up? That's a tough one. Who knows? It would have to be something like just, some gang initiation or some nonsense like that.
Right.
Because he wasn't involved in drugs. He would have had no ties to this. It would have just been a bad cast of characters. And unfortunately, we have talked about stories like that before where these people just, I don't know, they pick somebody up and then they just decided that on a spur of the moment type of decision to do something bad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I don't think we'll ever understand that. But
I don't think so either.
I've thought a lot about this case, about Chance, about the road he walked, about the silence that swallowed him, how like me he was, how he is just like so many that I've known and called friends. And I keep coming back to one thing. This shouldn't be possible. A man shouldn't be able to walk through the middle of a quiet town in the early evening and just vanish. Not without someone seeing, not without a single clue, not in 2019, not now, not ever. But here we are, nearly 6 years later, and the wind still carries no answers. The river gave back nothing. The fields stayed quiet. The phones stayed silent. And the people who might know something still haven't said a word. We tell ourselves the world is smaller now, that we have surveillance, cell towers, GPS, DNA, technology that can follow us through every street corner and screen, and yet people still go missing. Chance wasn't a drifter. He wasn't running. He wasn't broken. He was a husband, a new dad, a hard worker with a future waiting for him. He had a job offer. He had a baby boy. He had plans for Monday. And then he was gone. That's a tragedy for his family, for his son, for his mother. But it's also a tragedy for all of us, because if someone like Chance can disappear without a trace, it means the system, whatever that means anymore, isn't working. It means that accountability, technology, even public attention, none of it guarantees truth. And that should scare us, not in a paranoid way, but in a human one. We have to come to a place where people don't just go missing, where there are no more gaps, no more empty spaces on the timeline, no more excuses. Because when we normalize disappearance, we normalize silence, and silence kills cases. It lets guilt hide in plain sight. It lets fear win, and it leaves families stuck in the kind of grief that never ends, just circles endlessly in the dark. So no, we don't accept this. Not for Chance, not for anyone. There's a reason this show is called Dark Dialogue. because we believe the only way to bring truth out of the shadows is to talk loudly, relentlessly, even when it's uncomfortable, especially then. Chance Englebert matters. His story matters. His family matters. And somewhere out there, so does the answer.
Picture Chance that night, July 6, 2019, walking Gering's quiet streets after a family argument. About 5'9", lean from ranch work, short brown hair and a blue Wrangler shirt. Jeans, rubber boots, and a silver rodeo buckle. His iPhone pinged at 9:08 p.m. near Riverview Golf Course, then went dark in a storm. 0.4 inches of rain, 25-mile-an-hour winds. Nothing, not even that buckle, was found.
His son, Jackson, 3 months old then, is 6 now. Growing without the dad who planned a ranch for him. Dawn, his mother, holds vigils at Gering's Legion Park, last in 2024, with private investigator Amanda Waldron chasing tips. Bailey, his wife, returned to Wyoming days later, her silence a wound to Dawn, though no accusations hold.
Gering's sparse cameras, only a few on 10th Street and Martha Road, missed what happened post 9:08 p.m. Edgemont's Diner still shows Chance's flyer. Friends like Matt Miller share his rodeo tales. The case, cold since 2019, waits on a witness. Maybe from Country Club Road, maybe from Highway 26.
Call Gering Police at 308-436-5088. Nebraska State Patrol at 308-632-1211. Or Amanda Waldron anonymously. Silence isn't closure. Jackson, Dawn, and Chance deserve truth. Let's keep talking until the shadows speak. Thank you for joining us tonight on Dark Dialogue. If you've made it this far, then you understand what this case really is. A wound that hasn't healed. Not just for Chance's family, but for every community that's ever had to put up a missing person flyer and pray it doesn't stay up forever. If you know something, even if you think it's small, please contact the Gering Police Department, the Nebraska State Patrol, or submit a tip anonymously. You can also visit the Help Find Chance Englebert Facebook group for updates and direct contact information. I know that this episode is shorter than a lot that we do, and that is for one simple reason. There just isn't very much information out there. A lot of shows wouldn't cover this case because there just isn't enough information to make an extensive show. Here at Dark Dialogue, we have committed to telling the stories of victims. Male, female, the sexy and famous cases, but maybe more importantly, those that don't have all the hype. Some have none. Because of this, we will cover cases like Chance's and just make those episodes shorter. Because while we want to provide a quality and entertaining show for our listeners, our real mission is sharing stories, giving voices to the voiceless. And every voice matters, maybe especially those that are left in complete silence.
And if you want to help keep Chance's story alive, share this episode. Talk about him. Keep his name on your lips. Because silence helps no one, and someone out there knows the truth.
We'd like to thank the Englebert family, especially Chance's mother Dawn, for their strength, their transparency, and their relentless pursuit of truth. This episode is for them and for Chance's son, who deserves answers too. If you want to support our work, connect with us on social media or join our Patreon. Every share, every comment, every conversation helps shine a light where it's most needed.
You can also find links, photos, and full transcripts for this episode at darkdialogue.com. And if you're part of our Adoptive Victim program, the Chance Englebert case file is now open for collaborations.
We'll be back with another case, another voice, another truth waiting to be uncovered. Until then, I'm John.
And I'm Angela.
And this has been Dark Dialogue. Stay safe, stay curious, and keep the dialogue alive.